Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar with Charles Schwab and Ryan Garrison from Charles Schwab and then Bridget Grimes from Equita Financial Network. We'll let people kind of file in the room here. Usually takes a minute or two for everybody to join. In the meantime, if you want to let us know where you're calling in from, that's always kind of fun to see what sort of geographic coverage we have. Um, I'm in Golden, Colorado today. Oh, somebody nearby in Denver. Wow. West Virginia, love it. Beautiful. All right. Good, good coverage all over the country. So today I'm really excited to be here with Ryan Garrison from Charles Schwab, Bridget Grimes from Equita Financial Network. We're going to be covering a new integration that Income Lab has with Charles Schwab and the Schwab Advisor Services platform. This has been a really great experience. I actually want to just express some gratitude to the Schwab team. We had a really great experience building this integration, a super helpful team, and we hope that all of the Schwab and Income Lab users are enjoying it. Definitely let us know your feedback. If there's anything we can do better, we're always happy to help with that. So today we're going to start out with a little overview of Income Lab and Schwab Advisor Services. And then we will spend most of our time talking with Bridget about how she uses Income Lab in her practice, has really interesting kind of client base and some interesting things to say. And then we'll leave Q&A at the end as well. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section rather than the chat. The chat is great for chat, but it's hard to keep track of questions in there. And if there are questions that you see someone has submitted, please upvote those. Typically, we don't have time to take all the questions, so it's nice to know which ones everybody is most interested in checking out. And there will be a survey at the end of the webinar, so please fill that out. It's really helpful to hear from you. Make sure that we're covering things that are helpful to you. So with that, I'll start out with Ryan Garrison from Schwab to just give us a little bit more information about the Schwab Advisor Services and the integration. So over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Bridget, for being on this webinar today so that we can bring all of the advisors that have joined up to speed on how this integration works. My name is Ryan Garrison, and I work as a relationship manager working with technology companies like Income Lab on integration. And this has been a wonderful experience working with them on a real-time integration that is using your Schwab Advisor Center credential as a means for governing the data that's exchanged from the Schwab custodial platform to Income Lab. And so Justin is going to walk us through a demo. Bridget's going to show us how her firm and explain how her firm is using Income Lab. And the real crux of the purpose of the integration is to allow for all of the planning data that is hosted at Schwab to persist within Income Lab in a meaningful way. So that includes cost basis data, position data, balance data, and profile data, so that you don't have to rekey all that stuff, and so that it's there, handy, and ready for you to use with your clients. I did want to take a little bit of a side note here, and let everybody know that today Schwab announced that May 1st is from our perspective, National Investing Day, and a day to really focus on the fact that investing is available to so many more Americans as a result of 50 years ago the SEC removing fixed commission rates. So happy first National Investing Day from our perspective, and I'm going to hand it back to Justin to show us what Income Lab has built.
Thank you, Ryan. Always good to have some historical perspective on this. Things do change for sure. Before we get to kind of the integration and how Bridget is using Income Lab, I wanted to step back and just talk a little bit about what Income Lab is all about. So if we think kind of about what an advisor is trying to do for their clients, um, it's not typically, provide a particular statistic. It's not necessarily to, give the right charts and things. If we kind of think about it from the highest level, it's about helping people live the best life they can with their resources, make the best decisions they can, really help them live a meaningful life. And especially in retirement, which Income Lab focuses on kind of the whole retirement life cycle, from saving for retirement and living, during your working years, to when to retire, to how to do Social Security, to, all of those decisions. That is really, those are all questions about how to live the best life you can, how to build your resources and deploy them. So that's what Income Lab is really focused on. So for those, try sharing again here. Okay, I think that is working now. So for example, what you'll see with Income Lab is not a focus on things like probability of success, which is really common, but it's not a plan. That's an observation. It's a one-time score. It doesn't tell you what to do or anything. So if you had somebody near retirement or in retirement, what you're seeing here is more kind of down to earth answers to basic questions like, how much can I spend? That's what the retirement paycheck is. And maybe particularly interesting in a period like recently, what would my plan be for adjustment? I think it's pretty interesting. I was just talking with a friend of mine who said, every time the market's a little rocky and I ask my advisor, should I do anything? They always say, no, stay the course. And I've started to wonder, like, is there ever a point I would make an adjustment? Is there, do we have a plan for adjustment? And that's what you're seeing here is guardrails around, hey, this isn't kind of pass, fail, succeed or run out of money. It's about, we have a plan to guide you down the road as time goes on. So life is about helping you deploy your resources, build your resources, deploy them, and then adjust to whatever life throws at you, right? So we're trying to do the best we can with the resources we have and the world we happen to be living through. So here, for example, this family with, the portfolio resources are 2.75 million. They have other resources, Social Security, pensions, and so on. But if things get a little better, they'll be able to spend more. These are monthly income levels. If they get substantially worse, their plan would be to trim back. But you can see here that you have an actual point. You can point to your clients and say, yeah, we do have a plan for adjustment. It's just that in this case, we haven't hit that adjustment point yet. And if we did adjust, here's how we would adjust, and so on. So Income Lab is really about kind of talking to clients in ways that they understand, kind of meeting them where they are, using regular language around dollars and cents rather than percentages as much as possible, and about guidance through time. So it's not a one-time plan. It's about helping people, kind of giving them directions along the way. So we sometimes talk about this as GPS in retirement. So that's one reason that the integration with Schwab is so important, because, well, for a few reasons. One is that data entry is always, kind of one of the hurdles for building any sort of plan. And so, as Ryan said, kind of, helping you not have to rekey everything. So if you're in Income Lab, you have, and you've built the integrations, which is just, in our integration center here. If you go to your little, hopefully you've put your, headshot up here, go to integrations and set that up. And once you have it, there are a bunch of ways to use the integration. You can import a household, meaning you search for a household and pull all the data from Schwab that is available, right? So it's populating all of that household's investment accounts. And once that's done, you have a new household, you have a plan for that household. You can then go add other things like Social Security, pensions, maybe assets, liabilities, things like that. But you have the portfolios already set up. The other place you can do this is if you already have a household built. There's a few places to connect data. So this is Life Hub, which is available up here in the upper left, and this is a visualization of the whole plan. But here, if you were adding a new account, a new asset, you just hit add linked accounts, and again, search through your Schwab, the available accounts to add and add it to the household. Once that's done, the great thing is Income Lab is actually tracking plans over time. So you can set a plan to be tracked and monitored, which you see right here. And if I'm doing that, every month we update all of the plan values, which means we're saving you time. You don't have to go and update all your plan values because you have the Schwab connection set up. So we have, balances and so on. And then also we're checking whether anything's changed with the plan, right? As you get older, the plan gets shorter. Things are happening in the world like inflation and so on. All of that is being updated all the time. We do have a way for you to see what that looks like in kind of iconic and, in this case, tough historical situations, and see how a plan would have reacted over time, see how the guardrails would have changed over time. So this is the retirement stress test. And for this plan, it turns out if they had, instead of today, we were sitting in November of 07, by March of 09, they would have had a pay cut. I did this purposely. I made this a aggressive enough plan that it would have a pay cut. And you can see kind of how long that pay cut lasted and how long it was until they got back on track and then above plan. So the integration is really helpful in facilitating that ongoing monitoring and tracking, so that anytime you log into Income Lab, you can know that the plan is not way behind the times. Also really useful for again, conversations in tough times. So this plan happens to be a brand new one, but if it had been set up years ago, maybe this dotted line would be closer to the red. Maybe we would have been getting closer to a lower guardrail, and then you can talk with the client about, okay, yeah, we do have a plan for adjustment, we're getting a little closer, we're not there yet. Or in some cases, maybe you've hit it, and then you can have a conversation about how to adjust. If a client is not yet retired, that's okay too. So there's lots of things in the software that can help you talk about their situation now. But what you would see on this plan is a projection of what they might have and what they might be able to spend when they get to retirement. So it's usable in both of those situations. The last thing I'll touch on before we turn it over to Bridget is, once you have a plan, and that plan contains, a certain amount of portfolio withdrawals, usually different amounts in each month or each year, so here's a pretty typical plan where Social Security is delayed. Maybe they're still paying off their mortgage, which is why we have all this kind of, lumpy stuff here. Looks a little bit like the mesa behind my head here. How are we going to source this? Where's it all going to come from? And you can see that, partially in Life Hub, where we can get down to the account level and where the different withdrawals are coming from. But we can also explore that question of, where are we going to take funds from? Should we do Roth conversions? Should we source withdrawals from any particular place? And so that's where Tax Lab comes in, which runs this plan through 20 different ways you might source those withdrawals, and gives you statistics to help you make decisions on what you might like to explore with a client. So here we see those 20 different ways to do it. The darker green are the ones that have a little more value. So you can see for this family, there's probably some value in doing some level of Roth conversions. And you can choose one, view it, and see some statistics on how that might affect their their life and tax-wise over the whole plan. So that's a kind of a quick demo of Income Lab and how the Schwab integration works. But I think most advisors want to hear from an actual advisor and hear how these things affect their practice and their clients. So we'll turn it over to Bridget Grimes. Bridget, would you mind starting? Maybe give us a little introduction to you and Equita and your practice, so we can understand how you use Income Lab and Schwab.
Absolutely. So welcome everybody. I'm Bridget Grimes, and I am the co-founder of a firm called Equita Financial Network. We're a SEC registered RIA, and we're also a tuck-in. So we have about 10 firms on our platform, and firms come to us really to offload, to delegate for our tech stack. And this allows them to focus on just building a really good, robust practice and spending time on financial planning, which is what we're here for first and foremost. So custody at Schwab, obviously, and early adopters of Income Lab. And so in addition to running that RIA, I also have my own financial planning firm, and it's called Wealth Choice. So our clients are, most of my clients are not in retirement. So it's really interesting, and how we use Income Lab, I think, is kind of a cool thing. I'm not using it as much for my folks in retirement. Now, I do have about 7 clients who are actually in retirement. My clients are what we call breadwinner women. So they're from their 30s to 50s, big asset gathering folks, a lot of stuff going on. And these are people who want to know that they have a plan, right? They're working all the time. They want to know that they have a plan. And what is that plan? Like, what are the actions that they're taking now, and how are those going to manifest in the future for them to have this portfolio? And what is the income that they're on track to have? So I love Income Lab because I'm using it all the time with these clients who are not in retirement. Every time we meet with a client, we will have we've created a household in Income Lab, and I'm looking to show them the guardrails. Like, I'm a huge fan of guardrails. One of the challenges for financial planners is helping folks save money and saving. You're going to get 4.5%, distribution rate when you retire. And my folks are not working to leave everything on the table. Their goal is not, I'm going to make a ton of money, I'm going to save it and invest it, and then it's all going to go to somebody else. Like, that's not my client base. My clients want to know, hey, there may be money left over in that portfolio, but how much can I plan to spend when I choose to stop work? So that's how that's our approach, right? Okay, so everything, all of my accounts are integrated at Schwab and pull over to Income Lab for a particular household. And then we can see where they are right now, and I can see what is the impact, how much would the market really have to impact that portfolio for them to have to take a haircut based on the amount of savings that they're doing now. And I find that super valuable for folks. This is a great time to have that conversation, because if they're going to make a plan change, now's the time to do it, right? Not when they're in retirement and then the money's already saved and that's it. So we look at it as a way to check in with clients and say, here's what we're looking at, worst case scenario, this is what the haircut would look like, but this is how much the market would have to go down for you to even have to be in that situation. Conversely, here's how much, if the market goes up, and how often that happens. So one of the things Income Lab will also provide is, it's the statistics, Justin, that I really love. My folks don't want to know that I'm like 86%, like, okay. Like, those numbers don't matter to my clients. They want to know, like, what does that mean in English? Like, what am I on track to have as an income source? So I love being able to show the impact that we would have to have from the hit to the portfolio, if you will, that would have to happen for them to radically change their potential income. Yeah, so when you click on those, if the plan for decrease or upright, so we go over this with our clients, and I love the visual. People are super visual. This is easy for folks to understand. Most of my clients are not very sophisticated when it comes to this. They're really good at whatever their profession is. This isn't it. So to be able to have these visuals is really helpful for me. And then Justin, can you pull up the the sheet that will show, okay, well, what percent of time, yeah, it's going to, the percent of time that you will have to make a cut. Yeah.
So what this is doing now is saying, okay, you may live through lots of different kinds of worlds. Let's look at in general, does this plan, how often might this plan have pay raises, pay cuts, how big could they be? How often could they happen? Things like that. So it takes a couple seconds to.
Yeah, and so when we meet with a client the first time, we do a deep dive financial plan in my firm, and we run this and we show them this. And this is really helpful. It's kind of like a starting point. Okay, here's where we are. But this is the page that we will always spend time with. This is what we're looking at. And if you look at scenarios below plan, 1% of the time, these folks will be below plan on average, right? That is so marginal. But the point is, whatever the number is, it's here and we have this conversation. Are you on track? Is there anything we need to do to change this? Thank you for this. So now with our folks who are in retirement, I use it a little differently. And again, the fact that the data is coming over from Schwab is invaluable because it's live data. It's real numbers for clients. So in our practice, when somebody is in retirement, we pay them twice a year. So we'll raise money from their portfolio in January, and then we'll raise it in July. And so when I meet with them, this is where I feel Income Lab is really important to advisors and to really showing a client our value, because this is a very collaborative process here, right? So, and this is dynamic. This is constantly changing as the value of your client's portfolio changes. So in our case, we'll pull this up and we'll say, how are we doing? Did anything happen to this portfolio where we're going to have to take a look at the income we pull out in July, right? So that's going to happen next for my clients. Can we take more out? You've already taken X out this year. How are we looking? Sometimes you'll have this for a client, and I have a client in retirement who said, Bridget, something happened. I have to go to the dentist. I have this huge hit. I'm going to take a chunk of money out of my portfolio. And so I can see, well, what was the impact of that? Because now when we go to pay him in July, are we good? And this is where I really love this, because clients will need to come back to me and say, okay, how are we doing? What does my pay look like? And so that's where we'll go in and we'll say, how does it look? And it changes, right? It's like your net worth. Every day is a different story. But this is really important because, again, when you have a quarter like last quarter, and you have a lot of client anxiety over their portfolios, and you are able to show this for a client, hey, have I even been impacted? Has my portfolio really been that impacted? So now it's going to affect my income source. This is where I feel as a planner, we become their partner even more than we were before. And I also feel it allows us to pay people more than maybe a straight 4.5% rule is going to tell you. And one of the really great parts that we leverage on this is the Roth conversion piece. So great part of this, as far as we're concerned, a great part of this software is the ability to go in and to choose this Roth conversion scenario for your client. Now, most of our clients have a lot of money in retirement accounts. And we expect that to continue when they're still working. This is really helpful because in a lot of cases, because they're high earners, they're contributing to pre-tax accounts. So I want to be able to see how much can we actually save in taxes, which is essentially additional income to that client if we do certain Roth conversions. And none of my clients like to pay taxes. So when you are able to say, hey, by implementing this one strategy, you could potentially save X in taxes over the course of your life. And by converting to Roth, you will have this much more additional income. Because when I do projections for these clients, and I'm saying, okay, based on your portfolio right now, if you have all this pre-tax income, this is the amount, $11 million, whatever, that your portfolio will be at the time of retirement. Well, that's pre-tax. So it's not really $11 million. It's maybe even like $5.5 million, depending on their tax bracket. And so it's really important to be able to show them, okay, look, we can have a strategy once you stop work. your income drops, your tax bracket drops, and then we're going to really methodically convert this over a specific period of time, and you're going to wind up with X amount of incremental additional income. So this Roth conversion, I just think this is a fabulous addition to the platform here. And can you show the visual where we can see over what period of time this person would be converting? Do you have that on there?
See if this is the one you had in mind.
Yeah, so I think this is great. And this will show you, over what period of time would this individual actually be converting pre-tax dollars. And it's important, right? So we can go back to the client and say, here's the strategy, and here's how we're going to incrementally do that based on the tax bracket we chose to stay below. And it will, because the system is, knows the total value, they know the age of the client, they can tell us, okay, here's how much you can convert every year. So this is very helpful for me. I will turn around and I will work with a CPA for my clients. So I'm not just doing this without checking in on the CPA to make sure that we have everything right. But this is really valuable to show the clients and say, look, over your lifetime, this is potentially how much your savings is going to be in taxes. And this is when we're going to do this. We've got a plan, and this is the years we're going to convert X amount from your pre-tax accounts. Yeah, so I'll go in here and I will actually play with that page. So I love that because it's got different grades of color, and I'll go in and I'll play with these different tax brackets and we'll determine what's the best fit for that client. But these numbers, when you have chosen a Roth conversion strategy, they will feed to that page that Justin shared that shows, okay, here's this person's portfolio value. It will take into account conversions for that client.
Yeah, that's right. So if I applied this to the plan, for example, so here in Tax Lab, as you said, Bridget, we're kind of, you're in the sandbox, you're playing, right? Oh, here's 20 days, you can explore them. I don't know if anybody noticed, but a lot of times these strategies differ by like basis points, and so there's some art and science in this, right? No one knows what tax rates will be in 20 years, right? So you're definitely just making, as good a decisions as you can. And if you've applied it, then you can actually see down to the account level where things are coming from. So for example, here, we'd be saying, okay, we're going to do a Roth conversion. It's, $275,000. Here's where it's coming from and going to.
Yeah, so I think it's really, really helpful. And just being able, so the visuals I think are really great, and being able to show your clients the pictures of like, okay, this is how much we believe we could probably save you in taxes over this period of time, and what that actually means to you in terms of increased income, because we're originally starting with, okay, if we didn't do any Roth conversions, here's what your income would look like. But if we do, here's the change that can make for you. And it's great, right? I really feel this page is so awesome. And it really is, the clients see a tremendous benefit out of it.
Great. So we have a couple of, is there anything else you wanted to cover, Bridget, before I get to?
No, that's kind of it.
Questions?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Let me find where the Q&A is again. It always hides from me. Okay, so a couple of questions. So you mentioned, Bridget, that, not all of your clients, or maybe most of them, don't have, these big legacy goals. I want to hand, millions of dollars over when I die. So, well, there's a question about, can you include that as a goal? And then, and how does Income Lab sort of help you address really the goal not to leave too much, to sort of look back and say, wait a second, we probably should have spent more.
Okay, that's a really good question. I'm still a financial planner at the end of the day, and I'm not going to have a plan that goes to zero. Like, that's never going to happen because I just can't do that. I mean, I have a client who's 55 and she's like, Bridget, I want it to go to zero and I want to start, like, I just am not going to do that. So, you know, I guess I don't really have a great answer to that question. I would just say, you know, when my clients are taking money out, we're now, like folks in retirement, we are just, we're running the numbers and we're looking and we're just kind of pushing. You know, you have a big year like this one client had, and he took a chunk of money out. And I said, okay, so, you know, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can either take less out this year for the rest of the year, or you can just know that we're going to, or you can continue to take this much out, but you will wind up getting to a precarious place. I get very nervous about folks who want me to spend down a lot. But I don't use 4.5%. I don't use 4% with my clients. I won't do that. So I guess all that is to say, I don't model to go to a specific end number. I don't do that. I mean, I use eMoney for a lot of things too, but I'll tell you, most of these projections when I do by hand. I will do that by hand, and I'll kind of double check versus what Income Labs is telling me they could do. I think that this is really where just you become a really valuable partner. And if they want to push that portfolio and they want to take money out more than this is telling me, I'll just run forward and say, okay, here's what we're on track to do. And so, you know, with my nice calculator, I can model that out for clients, but I don't do it in here. I know, so you could do it in here. And Justin, I don't know if that's something you want to share with folks. I
I
don't
would
do
address,
that.
so I'm actually, this is an example plan, so I had no idea that it had a legacy goal, but now, apparently it does. They're looking to leave $200,000 adjusted for inflation, which in 30 years could be, you know, a lot more than 200,000. And, you know, even if I set this to zero, like you said, there's just no one knows when they will die. So there is no way to, you know, land this plan like a helicopter on $0. That is just not the way the world works. So even if you have a, you know, $0 legacy goal, if you look at, you know, the stress test, for example, which is just examples of this plan running through different scenarios, you know, maybe we go to stagflation. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's kind of amazing. One pay cut in stagflation. But you'll see, look, if you truly have no goal to leave a bunch of money in your portfolio, if you're living over, you know, 30 plus years here, you will have a situation where you're 2.75. You're going to be okay with it coming down to $1 million. Now, this is in today's dollars, by the way. So actually, it's quite a bit more than that by the end. But that would be your goal to kind of spend this down. But you can see here, this is essentially the end of this plan. It did not end with zero. And the reason is, at the end of this plan, we're assuming the person is still alive. And if they're alive, they're probably going to be alive for a while longer. And so you'll never see an income lab plan say, okay, spend all your money now because tomorrow you won't be here. Because that's not that's not realistic. No one really finds themselves in that position. But if you have a portfolio legacy goal, you would see this number be higher. You would see them spend a bit less. Like when I took that, it was only 200,000, but when I took that away, it added $200 to their monthly spending, right? Which was essentially, that's the cost of trying to save a bit more for the end of your life. So there's a way to, you know, address all those issues. So that was a good question. Oh, and I would also say, I mean, the other part is we do focus understandably on the lower guardrail, right? People want to know, am I okay, in the sense of, do I need to cut back? But the way that you avoid what we talk about a lot is the risk of regret is you let people know when they're eligible for a bit more, when they can hit some bucket list items and so on. And you can see this plan, which is most people prefer their plan to be of this sort, where the upside is closer than the downside. And so it's pretty close to an upside, right? So if things get better, they'll be able to spend a bit more. And that's how you avoid that risk of you know, hitting 80 and thinking, oh, you know, when I was 60, I probably could have spent more. I could have retired sooner. I could have, you know, there's all these things that you might look back and regret. Let's see here. So many questions. All right.
Hey, Justin, in the chat, there's been several questions about Bridget's tech stack. Bridget, do you think you can
Okay.
talk through a little bit about your tech stack and other financial planning tools that you use in addition to Income Lab?
Yeah, sure. So we use Plan. We use Income Lab, of course. We use eMoney. We use Advison. Huge fans of Advison. And Advison is kind of like our CRM, portfolio performance reporting fee software. And I use eMoney pretty much for my financial planning, and because we're a very financial planning forward firm. Plan is sort of an add-on. So our tech stack includes, we have a trading team. So, and they integrate with Schwab. They get their data from Schwab and Advison. So we have a trading team and a portfolio team that has created our models for us. And so we have like a standard stack. It's Advison, it's the Advisor Logistics, our trading team. It's Schwab, it's Income Lab. And then clients can add on, members of our platform can add on additional resources that they want, right? So my firm uses Income Lab, but not all the firms on the platform do. And interestingly enough, that the other firms that are using Income Lab are using it primarily for retired clients. So it's, we will chat about how are each of you using all of the different tech opportunities in different ways, right? So I use Advison for workflows, and people use different resources for that. So that answered your question.
That definitely, and there were a bunch of questions about that, in general. So thank you for that. There were also some questions, which I can handle on a little more specifics on the integration. For those of you who, well, actually somebody said, basically, how are you doing importing households? Since I don't know if this is true, but Schwab does not have a concept of a household. So we've sorted that out. So that you're still able to kind of search for a household name or something, and you'll see all of the accounts that fit under that. So there is, you are still able to do import household, which is really great, because it is one of the quickest way to do things. Somebody was asking, if I already have a household created, how would I do the integration then? In that case, probably you're going to want to go to the existing household and add the linked accounts directly, rather than kind of creating a brand new household. Unless maybe that household, if you didn't have a lot other than the accounts put in, you could just do a household import and then add in Social Security and things. But I think typically you're probably just going to go in and add them one by one. The same is true if you're already monitoring a plan. There is a way, I know somebody was kind of worried, hey, if I'm already tracking this plan, can I then, make the connection and now track it better? You can. So we can walk you through how to do that. It's not particularly hard. It involves copying that implemented plan, setting up the links, and then tracking that plan in a particular way where it's a continuation of what you were doing before. So it's a way to kind of just swap in the links. So that's all totally doable. Let's see here. I think I saw a few other questions in the chat.
Hey, Justin, Ryan here. I think somebody asked what's changed with the integration, and fundamentally what's changed is prior to this current iteration of the integration, the data was provided through end of day daily data in kind of a bulk fashion, and now the data is provided in a real-time fashion. That allows you as an advisor to really get started quickly. If you haven't already activated the integration, you could do that and get data moving into Income Lab simply by authenticating with your Schwab Advisor Center credential. So that is the main change, is the source of the data and the speed at which you can bring it in and start using it with your clients.
Yeah, so it's a kind of instant handshake sort of integration. So there's no paperwork involved. So it's much quicker. We also, I know I've seen some things in the chat. We will be rolling out more. So we're already able to look at things like holdings, but we'll be rolling out more automation for you to, for example, use kind of an asset allocation based on those holdings instead of having to put that in yourself. So that'll be a nice shortcut for some people who are not using, model portfolio allocations and things like that, which is another way people do it. So we will be rolling out more and more kind of shortcuts for you based on the data that we're getting. But right now you have, things like the name, the owner, the account type, the balance, the basis, and so on are all pulled in automatically for you. Probably the biggest thing right now is this is a modern, quick, very stable connection. So let's see here. Let's see if there are a few other questions we can take here. Somebody was asking, okay, what if we have accounts both at Schwab and another provider? Very common, right? You might have a 401k somewhere else or whatever. So on Income Lab, you can mix and match. You can mix and match integrations. You can mix and match integrations with manually inputted values. We also offer a client credentialed aggregation tool. So we use Yodlee for that. So there's lots of ways to kind of tie in data. And certainly the best is to have, API integrations that you can control as an advisor rather than depending on a client to, go set up a link or typing things in manually. But we, even if you're tracking an account that is not linked in any way, based on the asset allocation you've identified there, the system will project where it's gone. It's not going to be exactly correct, but if you set it to be 60-40 stock bond, it'll go in the direction that a 60-40 portfolio typically would have. And then periodically what people do is maybe it's before a client meeting or something, they just reconcile those values. The integrated values will be correct. As Ryan said, they'll be up to real time, and the others will be projected by the software. So good questions.
Justin, we're getting a couple of questions around security, like how the integration works from a security perspective, and I can explain that. So the API platform that Income Lab has integrated with is Schwab's API platform. So they have built to Schwab's systems, and the data is governed based on your Schwab Advisor Center credential. So when you activate the integration within Income Lab, Schwab displays a login microsite within Income Lab. And so when you are entering your Schwab credential, you're doing that at Schwab. Not your credential is not shared in any way with Income Lab. We are validating you as a Schwab Advisor Center user, and upon successful validation, we return an access token back to Income Lab, who can, from that point forward, access data within Schwab Advisor Center on your behalf. And so as long as that Schwab Advisor Center user remains in good order and is not fouled up in any way, the integration will work. So it is using the OAuth protocol for governing that security, which is an industry-wide protocol for security, and that is how the data is governed. So as Justin mentioned, there's no official form you have to fill out. As long as your Schwab Advisor Center credential is in good order, the data that you have access to on Schwab Advisor Center will be available within Income Lab for those integration points that Income Lab has built to.
And there was a question about frequency of updating, which I can address. So there is a spot in the app to request an update to values. Let me see if my, since I don't actually have, oh yeah, here we go. I can show you what that looks like. So I don't have any linked accounts set up for this particular example, but you'll see here, if I did refresh linked accounts would be available, and then I could just get the up to the minute values. If this were automatically being tracked, we do that just automatically once a month at the beginning of the month for you. That's primarily because the plans in Income Lab are monthly plans. Often people think about their spending in monthly, that a lot of statistics like inflation, CPI are released monthly. So that's kind of the cadence that we're after. I know in interesting months like we just finished, people often wonder, mid-month, we're in the middle of doing our data updates today, and it is remarkable that we have moved almost not at all since the end of March. Well, we've moved a lot, but we're the point to point is not a big difference. So those are the updates that you can do. You can always force a mid-month update of an implemented plan. There's a way to do that, but if you're tracking and monitoring a plan, it'll just happen for you automatically once a month. Bridget, there's a question for you on Roth conversions. I know you mentioned you really like to use the Income Lab, Tax Lab for Roth conversions, but you also use Holistiplan. Is there a way that you can use one or the other or both?
It's really interesting because eMoney also does Roth conversions. So I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. This to me is very different from any of the other options and any of the other software. I like this because I can go in and it's super easy to play with the buttons of different tax brackets. And this is such a different tool than Holistiplan or eMoney. So for me, like I said, a lot of my clients are younger. I love going in here and being able to see the implications of, the typical taxable, tax deferred, tax free that everybody, has been taught is like, that's the way you're supposed to do it. And then just to be able to compare that, to me, this is a great tool for that. So that's why I really like it. I tend not to use either Holistiplan or eMoney for Roth conversion work. I really use Income Lab because I like what it does. And I love to be able to show my clients this page, and because they care about this. Like, this is like super easy. And so I think for a visual for clients, it's just really good for us.
Awesome. And a couple other questions that we had on this. So somebody was asking about QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, which, yes, they're completely included in Income Lab once the client hits 70.5. And if they have charitable expenses in their plan, then the software will, in fact, there's no way around it. It will grab IRA money to fund those expenses. It will hold IRA money in reserve in order to do that in the future, because that is, one of the most tax efficient ways to get money out of an IRA. So you'll do less Roth conversions in order to do QCDs. So a lot of good, kind of charitable planning options here as well. And then someone was also asking, when you're implementing Roth conversions, how does Income Lab handle, additional portfolio withdrawals needed to pay the taxes on the conversion? So if you set a plan to target a net income amount, which is often, if you're doing Roth conversions, eventually you will reach that point where you're saying, okay, in the early years when I'm doing Roth conversions, I don't want to trim my spending. I want to take more out. So you can do that in a plan, and then it will source it, first from taxable accounts. And then if there's no taxable accounts available, it will net out the Roth conversion. So not all of the IRA withdrawal will actually get to the Roth. Instead, some will be used to pay the taxes. So that's how that works. Okay. And as Ryan said, in terms of people were asking more about, security and personally identifiable information. So the only information that we're accessing, we're not even accessing account numbers. We're just looking for the values that are going into your plan. So, Income Lab and certainly Schwab are very, very aligned on taking security and personal information, really seriously and following industry best practices there. So I know, Schwab is a stickler on due diligence and things, and working with their team, that was definitely impressive. Somebody was asking, when will the allocation data feature be available? No firm ETA on that, but should be within probably a quarter, probably in the next 3 months is my guess. All right. Are there places, Ryan, where people were asking for, content about how this functions and so on? You can certainly find in the Income Lab knowledge base. Are there places in Schwab where people can find information about integrations?
Yes, I think somebody asked a question about additional integrations or integrations that are on the roadmap. And if you do a quick Google search for Schwab Advisor Services integration matrix, we have a giant PDF, hopefully soon to be an actual web page versus a PDF. But it shows all of the integration providers like Income Lab that have built more complex integrations that include a single sign-on, APIs, trading integration, and that matrix is updated usually on a quarterly basis. So if you want to bookmark that site, it's a good one to come back to. But it shows you what integration providers are new to the platform and have started development. So it shows you what's on their roadmap and what they're planning to build to in the future. It also shows you what integrations are in a pilot state. So those are integrations that are being tested with a handful of advisors. And there shows you all the integration points that each provider has in production. So for instance, it shows you the APIs that Income Lab is using to facilitate its integration. So a lot of detail there, and keep an eye on it. We're updating that quarterly.
So that would also be the place you can see, the data fields that Income Lab is accessing, and
Exactly.
those of you who have
Exactly
questions on that. So maybe just to wrap up, since we're coming to the top of the hour here. Bridget, there's one more question I thought might be a good one to close with, which was just, when you're talking with clients about, hey, this is how we would adjust over time and so on. Imagine a client does hit a guardrail or something. How would you address that with them? Is it something you would, drop everything and make a phone call, or is it, a little bit more of a longer process?
That's a good question. We've never had to have that conversation yet. So, like I said, if the client is in retirement, I'm not checking this every day. Right? Because they're going to get paid twice a year. So when we sit down with our clients, we do reviews twice a year, deep dive reviews, and we're talking to them about other stuff during the rest of the year. But if we sit down with a client, we always start with the portfolio value. That's just part of what we're reviewing. And we would just, I guess, if I had to give somebody a haircut, right? And I was kind of worried about last quarter. I was like, is this going to be the quarter where we actually have to, the year where we actually have to cut? But so far we're good. And you can see those numbers. You really have to have a huge hit to make a difference in a client's portfolio before you're going to cut their income. I guess, haven't had it happen. I guess I would just say, here's where we are. These are the numbers. Are you okay with doing this? Our clients aren't living that close to the edge. Like, it's just not how we advise them. I don't know. I don't know how it would go, but I haven't had to have the call yet. When we do meet with folks and we can see that the market's gone up, which it's done a lot lately. What's interesting is oftentimes you can say, hey, you could take more money out, and they don't take it out. I've got this one woman, and I say, you could spend the money, you worked so hard to spend the money, and she doesn't want to spend the money. So we talk about it. It hasn't been an issue yet.
Yeah, that's a really common theme that I've heard, is often people will actually use Income Lab to kind of help people relax a little bit, spend a little more, but it can be hard. Like we exercise our saving muscle for decades, and then we're not, our spending muscle isn't very good. So,
it's funny too, because that's, you are giving them permission because they see the numbers and look at the numbers. You could do this, but they don't want to.
We had a masterclass series with Ryan Townsley. I think it was toward the end of last year. And he did talk about some people in 2022 that had hit lower guardrails. And I think, so that's if people are looking for something on that. The other thing that's interesting is often, yes, you could take a pay cut, right? Spend less, or as you said, Bridget, maybe they're not even spending that much already, so it's not even a change for them. Or you can often make adjustments to the plan elsewhere, right? So maybe next year they were planning a blowout around the world trip.
Right.
Now, it's not nice to push that off or make it smaller or something like that, but that is an option, right? As opposed to spending less month by month. Or like you just saw, if you had a portfolio legacy goal of $1 million at the end of your life, well, if you get rid of that, then you may not hit the lower guardrail. So there are often, it's more of if you hit a lower guardrail, it's a time to talk. Like, hey, we probably should do something. One thing you could do is spend less, but there may be other options too. So. Also, you've set the expectation because they've seen the guardrails for months or years. So they know, oh, we're getting closer. And if we hit it, this is what we would do. So it's not maybe a surprise to people.
Now, I have had clients when we've been in periods of crazy volatility, I have had clients say, what does my portfolio look like now? But I think it's like you said, we set expectations with these clients. We are super communicative. And I think that helps.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you again very much to Ryan Garrison from Schwab, Bridget Grimes from Equita Financial Network. And please fill out the survey at the end of this. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to us at incomelab.io. We're happy to field any other questions or get you connected with people who can. So thanks very much, everybody.